Alright guys, we're going to talk about one of my favorite units in the game. This and the Charybdis are my two favorite vehicle in the game. This is your standard Dreadclaw. So what we have, what we're going to have here is this Dreadclaw filled with fire drakes. So these fire drakes are going to be loaded with storm shields and then basically all close combat weapons and storm shields, so they don't have any shooting. So the cool thing, we're going to say that this sergeant once again has an augury scanner. So we're going to show you why Dreadclaws are cool and go back to when we were talking about in the last video about how things prioritize differently and how these guys fire before someone, like when you come in, because these guys fire in the movement phase, at the end of the movement phase, they get to shoot before the guys that are coming out of the drop pod get to shoot because they shoot the shooting phase. So this Dreadclaw even has an ability that even trumps that. So the way the Dreadclaw works is when it comes in, it immediately upon landing does a heat blast attack that comes out from the hole 3 plus a D3 inches. That's strength 6, AP 5, ignores cover, and it hits vehicles on their weakest armor facing. So, and then we're going to show you another tactic and a way to use this. So there's two different ways you can go about it depending on how risky you want to be. So knowing that these guys have an augury scanner, you know that at the end of the movement phase, if this thing deep strikes in, they're going to be allowed to shoot at it. So we'll show you how this works. So let's say this thing comes landing in, and we'll put it right here. You want to put it like 1 inch away from these guys. You might even want to put it here if you wanted to be real risky to get all 3 vehicles. So we'll just put it here. We'll put it 1 inch away from these Marines. It still would have to scatter the full 12 inches to go off the board this way, and it can't go off any other way. So you'll roll your scatter. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a hit. So it directly hits right there, and it will do a 4-inch area of an effect. So with 4 inches from the hole, it'll get that tank, this speeder, and all these guys, except that one, in this squad. So what's cool about this is it comes in and lands, and because it does this immediately, you have a chance to damage or destroy. Well, you can only damage these, but you can kill enemy models here. You have a chance to kill anything before these intercept you, because this happens immediately upon landing, where these guys have to wait to shoot till the end of the movement phase. So you'll come in, you'll do the heat blast attack, and then they get to shoot at you, which is pretty cool. The cool thing about this is if you have multiple Dreadclaws, let's say you had let's say you had an army that had 5 Dreadclaws in it, you're going to get 3 of these. So you could potentially stack 3 of these around these guys and possibly kill down this squad to a few members, if not completely wipe them out, before they even get a chance to intercept. So that's pretty cool. That's something to think about. The other cool thing is, because once it lands here, even though these guys get to intercept it, because this thing lands as a fast skimmer, it's able to jink. So always keep that in mind. And then, like I said in a previous video, 50% of the time, the game is going to have Night Fight on turn 1 when this thing's likely to be coming in, which means its jink save is going to increase to a 3-up. These things are way harder to kill than a lot of people realize. And then, so you can put your fire drakes in there, they land, it does the damage, whatever, then you jink when they shoot at you, so it has a very good chance of surviving. And then all that shooting that this thing absorbs is shooting that these fire drakes don't have to withstand until they actually get you out of it. So the other tactic you can use, if you want to be more defensive, that this guy has an 18-inch augury scanner range, which is right here to this tree. So what you can do is drop your Dreadclaw back here. And you're thinking, well, why would I take this drop pod army and put it way back here? Well, the cool thing about the Dreadclaw is, in the shooting phase, it gets to move flat out because it's a skimmer. Because when on the turn it lands, it just counts as if it moved cruising speed. There's nothing stopping you from moving flat out on the turn it lands. So let's say you roll scatter. This would move 7 inches this way over to here. It's still out of the 18-inch range, so they cannot intercept you because you are out of intercept range. So then at the end of the movement phase, these guys' opportunity to intercept is passed. So now they can no longer intercept for the turn. Then in your shooting phase, you can move this thing 18 inches flat out all the way up to here, which is kind of where you wanted it to begin with. Then on their turn, they shoot at it whatever, whether it survives or dies, it's still going to get your fire drakes where you wanted them all along. But this will prevent the opponent from being able to intercept you by landing outside and then zipping in. Or, as I said, if you have more than one Dreadclaw, you very well may consider dropping in, try to kill these guys with your heat blast before they get a chance to shoot, and then ducking out. At our game club, we call this the Razzle Dazzler, because you can do all kinds of razzle dazzle stuff with it. It's got all kinds of special maneuvers and cool stuff you can do. So that's a offensive way and defensive way to use a Dreadclaw on the turn it comes in. And all of this stuff that I'm telling you about will work the exact same way with the Charybdis. It's just bigger. Now keep in mind the Charybdis does have guns on it, so if you're wanting to fire the guns on the turn it arrives, it will not be able to move flat out. So usually the Charybdis, if you're going to use the Charybdis in that way, it'll typically, if you're wanting to shoot it, you're typically going to want to drop it close, use the heat blast, and then shoot it. Now one thing you do need to watch out for with these Dreadclaws, and a lot of people forget about this. So let's say, let's pretend for a moment that these guys are veterans with melt-bombs and they're a much bigger squad. If I end my turn and these guys are still in this Dreadclaw, let's say I dropped them back here, got out of intercept range or whatever, then shot it up here right in my opponent's face. If he's got something that can move up and assault this pod, if he in the movement phase moves up enough to surround it and then assault it where he's assaulted it on all sides, like this, and is able to destroy the pod, because when I remove this pod, I have to put the models where the pod was, and I can't place them within 1 inch of an enemy model, you'll notice I can't place all these fire drakes. So what ends up happening is models you can't place are automatically destroyed. So no matter what you do with these Charybdises, whether you're dropping them in and then doing the heat blast and then jumping out, or you're dropping out and jumping in, you always make sure, check with your opponent, triple check, make sure, because you can pre-measure that they don't have a unit that they're going to be able to surround and assault and destroy this thing while you still have guys in it. It happened to me once. I lost about 800 points worth of fire drakes and characters in a Charybdis from that tactic right there, and I vowed to never let it happen to me again, and it's not happened since. So just keep that in mind when you use any of this.